Hi, I'm Dr. Mark, and I'm a voice teacher and stage director. Whether you're a professional pop or rock star that's wanting to take your performance to a next level, or you're just interested in making your car singing or shower singing easier and more comfortable and fun, I can help you get there. I'll start doing that today by reacting to and teaching you singing and performing tips that we can learn from the top performers around the world. Let's learn from BTS performing Spring Day. We're going to be doing two videos at once on this song. We're going to be doing the official music video and the M Countdown performance at the same time. Three things I want you to be aware of before we start. First, there's so much symbolism in here that there's no way I can cover it all in this video, so I'm not really going to talk about it a whole lot. Second, I don't want to break up the song or stop it at all. All I want to do is listen to it and enjoy it all the way through. That kind of defeats the purpose of these type of videos though, so hopefully if you find yourself wanting to do this, you'll go back and watch the original videos just like I will. Third, here's the challenge for this double video reaction. The way this is going to work is every time I stop, I'm either going to change audio sources or keep it the same. So for example, the first clip you'll notice here is from the music video. That's pretty obvious because it's the only video that's up at the very beginning. But then the next clip might be the music video. It might be the performance one. You'll have to guess which one and why. And I'll tell you at the end of each clip which one it was. Let me know what you think. In the future, if you watch or like it, I'll do this and make it more difficult. I think it's a fun way to learn to associate what we're seeing with what we're hearing and be able to identify by sight what sounds we expect to hear. Tell me what you think. So, here we go with BTS's Spring Day. Okay, so what do we hear here? First it's silence, then the snow crunching, and then the train coming along. That silence heightens our anticipation, heightens the meaning of the sound so that each little sound we hear means something and we know it means something. The snow crunching gives us a really clear context of where we are and the feelings that go along with cold and snow and trying to walk in it. And the train growing closer and that sound getting louder and that going also builds our anticipation. Visually, there's a really clear context being at a train station, watching a person step off of the platform onto the tracks, kneel in the snow, put their face or their ear against the track. It locates us physically and emotionally. At the same time, it also leaves a lot of question marks. Is this person laying down on the tracks? Is there a train coming? Is it going to hit them? Is this a suicide thing? Or is it a reminiscent thing, trying to connect with someone who did commit suicide? Because we don't see a train in the distance, there isn't that immediate threat that we're really worried they're going to get hit or hurt. These are all kinds of different question marks that leave us wondering, which serves a really fantastic purpose. They all function to grab our attention, to locate us in a specific context so we're ready to both hear what's coming next and see what's coming next with questions in our mind, ready to be fully engaged, but kind of at least in the right emotional and mental ballpark so that we're ready to jump right into the song. This intro bit, brilliant. Love it. I love comparing these two videos side by side because the juxtaposition of the cinematography with the dance adds to its meaning and also really highlights the artistry of this group. It adds to the meaning because obviously it gives us more information. We kind of see these two things on top of each other that help us really understand what they're thinking, what they're wanting to highlight, what's really going on in the minds of these people who are performing it. And that's really awesome to get this wide variety of information all at the same time. It highlights their artistry because, to me, the dance is just as potent as the cinematography in communicating the story, in me relating to it, in me feeling emotionally engaged. That's really huge, especially in today's society. The argument is that because we watch so much video, we are so visually oriented, we are so tied into literal representations of the world around us that things that are more abstract like dance are a little less relatable, a little less engaging to an audience maybe, but this proves that that's not the case. At least it does to me. To me, it shows that the dance is just as engaging as the more literal cinematography. Yeah, there's still a lot of abstraction and symbolism in the cinematography, but it's much more literal in terms of we're seeing very specific things and we're not trying to infer meaning from just movement. We are actually seeing really specific pictures of symbols or actions or events or places. So it speaks to not just the validity of dance, but their ability to use these different media to communicate, to tell the story, and to be as engaging both ways. And together, for me, it just makes it all that more exciting and more intriguing.
이제 얼굴 한번 보는 것조차 힘들어진 우리가 저긴 온통 겨울뿐이야 8월에도 겨울이 와 마음은 시간에 달려가네 홀로 남은 설국 열차.
The balance of really clean, crisp consonants with really pure vowels and the consistent airflow is really instructive when listening to their rap. If you were to practice your songs with this kind of rap first before ever singing them, but really get them this expressive, this connected, and to rap all your songs like this before you sing them, I think you're going to find the singing is a lot more expressive, a lot easier to produce, and a lot more consistent as well. I debated before I made this video whether to read the translation or not. This time I decided not to. So far of the videos I've watched of them, I haven't felt like I needed to have the translation to understand what they're saying. It was icing on the cake. It was really helpful. It was awesome. But I wanted to see, especially watching these two videos back to back, how much of the message I really got. What I'm so intrigued by here as I'm watching this is even without understanding all the words that are being said, how engaged I am, how much it is impacting me emotionally, how much I'm understanding the story and relating to it. I don't want to stop the video. I want to just keep watching. The question that makes me think is, what is it that they're doing or that I'm hearing on a subconscious level that is breaking my heart? I feel really connected with it, and it makes me empathize with the kind of melancholy, sadness, longing that is going on in this video. I think it's really, really amazing that even without understanding their text, that we're able to engage on such a deep level with what they're doing performance-wise. Does that mean the words aren't important? No. In fact, the artist has to start with the words. If they start with the words and the expression of those words and everything ties to that and to the underlying meaning of what they're trying to portray, then if every element is tied into that, we as the audience don't even have to really understand the words 100%. Any part of that performance we see or engage with is going to connect with us. is going to express that emotion. And each element that we're able to connect together only brings us in further, only gives us more information, only sucks us deeper into that narrative, into that story. And here, because every element is so tied into the text, the narrative, even if I don't hear what the actual text is, the thought process is so clean, so clear, so vivid, and so relatable that the text still comes across, even if I'm not understanding it with my ears. So my question to you is, if you take away the meaning of the words, does it affect you? Are you engaged with what's going on? If so, what is it about the body language, about what you're seeing visually, about what you're hearing, that makes your heart break, that makes you empathize, that makes you engage on so many levels with this performance? What is it for you that's going on here? One of the things that to me makes it so potent is that they're not just putting abstract symbols in front of us. They're putting them in the context of everyday life and in terms of dance and movement. They're also connecting with what they're doing with their face. And so it gives us this through line, this context and this lens by which to understand these symbols. Because they're also using these everyday life events, we can relate with that. And so we have our own memories, thoughts, emotions, and feelings tied to these places. And because what they're showing here is so human in nature, if you've lived long enough, you've probably experienced enough of what they're showing here to really be able to empathize and connect with it. Another big theme that's jumping out here is them jumping back and forth between being part of a group or a community and involved in these social events, and then isolation. This taps into a primal part of the human psyche and the human experience. So even if we don't notice it right off, we do on some level, this kind of feeling of isolation. And when that's juxtaposed with these group moments, we feel this sense of loss, of isolation, of emptiness, of kind of overwhelming longing for that feeling of connection and reconnection with those happier times. One of the reasons we're not talking about the symbolism is because I could talk about it all day long. There's so many things in here. It's so rich. And like symbolism, there are so many layers of meaning, some of them intended by the artist, some of them that we layer on ourselves because that's the power of symbols. To me, the important part here to note in terms of how can we learn from them is how to give the audience enough detail, how to give them enough information so that they can connect with it, engage with it, and be interested, but not do it in a way where we're spoon feeding it to them, where we are telling them what to think. They do a brilliant job here of giving us a really clear context, all kinds of details, thoughts, emotions, and ideas to engage our mind and to help us be able to relate. But they aren't spoon feeding us the meaning here. They aren't telling us about what's happening. They're just showing us what's happening and letting us make our own decision on what the symbols mean, on what's going on how we relate to it. A lot of young performers, when they come in and start working with me, they are really intrigued by this abstract, I want my audience to come up with their own thoughts, their own ideas, which is excellent. Unfortunately, what that usually means is that they don't do the work to be specific and detailed enough to engage the audience's mind, to engage their intention, to give them a clear enough context, to give them a logical sequence of events or a natural pattern of thoughts to engage the audience's imagination and to help them relate. So it just becomes this kind of blah. It ends up kind of feeling like a kid trying to be profound. And usually that's kind of off-putting to an audience. Or they tried to tell a story too much to be too in your face and tell you exactly what they're wanting you to see and know, in which case it can be fun and interesting, but it doesn't really engage us on a deep, deep level where we're not just engaging with the story, but we kind of get lost in our own thoughts and emotions and memories. What we can learn from BTS here is the difference between what my students' responses usually are when I ask the question, so what is your character thinking? What are you thinking about with this song? There's two possible responses. One is they start to tell the narrative. They start to tell me what's going on in this story. At which point I stop and say, no, I don't care what's going on in the story. I want to know what your character is actually thinking. Something along the line of, my heart feels like it's being ripped out of my chest. Oh, chocolate cake, that's good. But I don't really have an appetite right now because, that reminds me of this moment when in the music video and even in the dance, they're more living in these thoughts. They're showing us the thoughts and not trying to describe the story to us. They are letting us be a part of the experience and not telling us about the experience. To me, that's one of the big differences that helps an audience engage with a specific story, but not in a way where we're spoon feeding it or cramming it down their throat. It also allows the performer to just be a person in a moment, to be vulnerable, to be real, to be authentic, and not to go into actor-singer mode, but just to be a real person who's singing about real things in a real or imaginary moment that to them is real in that moment.
네가 변한 건지 아니면 내가 변한 건지 이 순간 흐르는 시간조차 미워 우리가 변한 거지 뭐 모두가 그런 거지 뭐 그래 늙다 네가 넌 떠났지만 단 하루도 널 잊은 적이 없었지 나 솔직히 보고 싶은데 이만 너를 지울게 그게 널 원망하기보단 덜 아프지 널 풀어내본다 연기처럼.
Check the link down below for an article that talks about some of the symbols in here, especially the part about clothing. I thought it was a really insightful article to start thinking about what these symbols might mean to these performers. Notice how little they're doing with their jaw and their mouth here. They're keeping it so speech-like, just like they're talking to someone right in front of them. So why is it getting swallowed? Why aren't we losing the consonants? Why aren't we losing the vowels? How is it staying so present? Well, obviously part of it is because they're using a mic, but the other part is that they're still being articulate with their tongue and teeth, but they're also keeping that forward resonant engaged. That same place that we use and associate with crying, sobbing, whining, right? There's that kind of cry in it that keeps it forward, that keeps it clearer, that helps it stay consistent in its sound and helps it fit the style. Try it now. Try finding that whining, crying place, not tense, not shouting, not pushing at it, just as whiny as possible. Like you could do it all day long, just kind of cry, whiny, sobbing, forward buzz. Some might feel it here in their sternum or definitely up here in our sinuses, up here in the mask. We're going to feel that resonance there. Then once you find that just by kind of sobbing, crying, and finding that placement in our speech, then do that while you're singing. See what happens to your singing and your sound. One reason it's really potent here is because we associate that sound with crying. On an emotion level, when we're hearing that sound, it makes us feel that feeling that belongs with crying. We feel empathetic towards someone who is crying inside, even if we're not seeing them cry in their face. That sound of sob cry is there. And we relate with that. So why sing in different languages? Yeah, it's part of the tradition, it's part of the style, and that's nice, but it actually serves a bigger purpose than that. By switching languages, it forces our brain to engage. Consequently, it draws attention to that specific word or phrase that's in the contrasting different language. That's what it's doing here. So it serves a really important purpose of emphasizing specific text and drawing our attention to it. It also serves a function because in a song like this, by this point, even in just breaking up in small little clips, my mind gets so sucked into my own thoughts and feelings and emotion that I'm somewhere else, not even in this video anymore. I'm in my own thoughts and emotions and memories. So when they do this, it brings my attention back to their performance and makes me re-engage with what they're doing. So it's really helpful to keep me invested in their performance and what's happening here. Not that they're not doing anything interesting. In fact, it's because they're doing so much that it's forcing me to feel and think so much, but that they're reminding me that it's not over yet. They're going to take me further on this journey, and so I better not check out quite yet. So I think it's a really helpful service to re-engage our brain again.
You know it all, you're my best friend. 하지만 다시 올 거야. 어떤 어둠도 어떤 계절도 영원할 순 없을
How do you come up with symbols and using them as part of what you're doing without relying on cliches that everyone knows and uses and get old and boring? Well, first, you have to start engaging with the world around you and seeing what you as a human react to on a deep visceral level. Start keeping track of it, whether it's a Pinterest account and you're keeping track of what really engages you and makes you feel and think, whether it's going to a museum, an exhibit, an installation, a movie, a song, but just start keeping track of them so that when you need something for inspiration, when you're looking for something to kind of capture what you're thinking about, what you're feeling, you can go through those and re-find unique symbols that have meant something to you. When you do that, you'll find your own unique symbols. You'll find ones that matter to you, that you really connect with, and that will serve to stimulate your own emotions and thoughts so that your performance is more engaging, but also you're bringing your audience along for the ride and they'll understand what that symbol starts to mean. And then you're starting to create your own symbols and not just relying on old cliches. To me, what they're wearing makes it so that they're one of us. They're kind of nondescript clothes. They're nice, but they aren't drawing attention to any single individual. It's like we could meet this person on the street and not think much of it. We could just walk right past them without thinking a whole lot. Unless you were to recognize them, of course, then you'd probably freak out and die like me. This anonymous kind of costume, what they're wearing, and it not drawing our attention to anything in specific, makes it so they kind of blend as a group. They kind of become a blank canvas that we can paint our own thoughts, emotions, and memories on. It also communicates that this song is about the whole group. It's about what they're saying together and not about any one particular individual in this moment. Physical contact between performers on stage is so important. In a day and age where we're so concerned about germs and lawsuits, the physical contact between people keeps decreasing and decreasing. We've become so isolated. We've become societies and communities of individuals in these nice, sterile, neat little packages where we're not connecting with other people. Reading the science on the importance of physical contact between two humans is really fascinating and worth the research and read. After reading those, then considering the impact of what that means on a society that is not making regular physical contact between people is also really sobering. As a performer, what it means here is when we connect with each other on stage, because the audience is an empathetic entity in this, it's like by these two other people touching, engaging, in this case, giving an embrace, it's like each of us are also getting an embrace. If they don't, we feel this sense of isolation, this distance from each other. But when they do, we feel like we're part of that. And we feel this same connection that happens with physical touch. We get some of the same benefits of watching these people on stage connect physically as an audience member watching it. Because so much of the world is so starved for this physical connection, they're even more sensitive to it. It means even more when they see it happen, when it's on stage. They react even more strongly to it. So it really is a really potent communicator, has a really strong effect on the audience when people on stage engage and connect. In essence, the hug they gave there is like they're giving each of us a hug too. Hugs back to you, BTS. Again, symbolism, love it. So cool. I want to talk about it so bad, but we'll leave it be. Loved it. Loved how intentional they are. Love what great storytellers they are. Love the easy, consistent sound I was hearing. This is definitely a song that will go to my favorites playlist. I would love to hear what you learned watching these videos side by side, what it made you think of, what it made you feel, what you want to apply to your performing. Comment down below. I want to hear what you have to say. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. Visit my website at mrperformingartsstudio.com. Book a session. I'd love to work with you online. See you next time.